Sometimes I film things because I'm making a documentary. And sometimes I film things just because I know people won't believe me. There are a lot of occasions where I witness something and I keep witnessing it. And I know even if I tell people that they are not going to believe it, either because it's unbelievable or because they don't want to believe it. And that's when the camera comes out. And amazingly enough, even that isn't good enough because if you don't want to believe something, the human mind is really, really capable of creating whatever barrier is necessary. Now, back when my dad was being locked up, the use of iPhones in public wasn't the way it is today. I still was a little bit self-conscious about pulling it out and filming things. Today, people never put their phones away, it seems like, and they film everything happening. I kind of wish I had felt more free to film because those homes he was getting locked up in, my God, that was some nightmarish shit. Anyway, spoke with Darold Thomas today because he keeps calling. And Darold was always nice. I actually liked Darold. And as I expected, he was just calling to try and plead the case of the side that locked away someone he was supposedly close to. I was already hanging up the phone when I heard the words, "Well, that's not the story I heard." I gotta ask people, do you really think that the side guilty of whatever they did isn't going to have their own story? It drives me crazy whenever people say, "Well, I heard something else." Well, no shit, you heard something else. What, do you think people aren't going to come up with their own narrative to try and make themselves look less bad? What, do you think they're just going to lay back and admit to everything and not create some verbose excuse for their bad behavior? Bottom line is, people weren't there. So you choosing to believe a story is an indication of you choosing to believe whichever story you wanted to believe, whichever is the path of least resistance. Let me give you a quick summary. Mickey Thomas never did a single thing to try and improve the situation at home regarding my dad's dementia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. It quickly became clear, even though I didn't even want to admit it to myself, that the goal was to lock him up as quickly as possible. Let me give you some examples of no effort. This is a person whose short-term memory isn't good. You think you might want to put up some helpful signs around the house? You think you might want to look into an earlier retirement? You think you might want to look into getting some help around the house? I looked into things that could be making the dementia worse, things that could help relieve the dementia, including but not limited to changing the diet. She wasn't interested in any of that. Maybe you don't believe in the importance of diet. I mean, it's just the fuel that you're putting inside of your body. I'm sure it doesn't have any effect at all. But whether you believe in that or not, the bottom line is she wasn't interested in trying. What Mickey was interested in was going to her self-pity parties with the other old women of Naples who sat around and complained about their husbands. I can remember one neighbor in particular who would come over and complain about her husband. And at one point, that guy was in really bad shape and um, was pretty much written off. I mean, she literally said, "Yeah, this is it. This is it. He's going." Lo and behold, the guy miraculously recovered. And I could see the disappointment in her face and hear the disappointment in her voice when she would come over. And instead of being at home with him, sit in the kitchen and complain with Mickey. What a lot of people don't know is that my dad was getting mellower and mellower and mellower. You know, if the people who made up stories to try and justify locking him up, you know, whatever stories there were, which were never verified, and I never witnessed, like him supposedly getting violent. It's interesting how I never witnessed that the entire time I was there. It's interesting how no one witnessed it. And yet, when it comes time to wanting to feel better about treating someone like shit, you'll quickly just embrace these stories as fact. But in any case, let's pretend that any of that was true. Well, it certainly wasn't true by the time that they threw him away for the last time. I feel like I should point out that my girlfriend's dad had dementia also, and he stayed in the home right up his home, his house, right up until the time that he died. What a gift. What a gift from the family. What a gift from his wife not to have his last days end in a strange, cold, sterile environment. Yeah, you guys chime in acting like you're all experts on dementia from far away without really thinking about it or without even witnessing it. Let me ask you, what do you think the most important thing is to someone who no longer has their short-term memory? It's their long-term memories. It's the things that they are familiar with. That's all they have at that point. And that's what you took. That's what you took away. The one thing that he had. His comfortable routine of coming home. And when I say coming home, you might wonder what I mean. The guy was still capable of going to a daytime activity facility and even getting himself on the bus and bringing himself home. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy that he was still capable of doing that and he got locked up. So when he gets home, what's he like to do? He likes to sit on the couch. Maybe I'll grab a beer and have a beer with him. He likes to look at his photo albums. He likes to look at his football memorabilia. If I can talk him into it, we'll throw the football a little bit. Maybe we'll watch some sports. But the point is, he was in a place that he recognized. He was in a place that he lived in long enough that his brain was able to store long-term memories. And you took all that away. And you wonder why he rotted so quickly. You wonder why he rotted so quickly when you took away the only thing he had. Who knows how long it would have taken for my dad to die from dementia if he had stayed at home. But the length of time isn't as important as asking, even if it was one more day, did he not earn that? Did you not earn that level of compassion after what he did for his family? So the bottom line is Mickey didn't want to give him that. She didn't want to prolong it. She didn't want him at home. She got rid of him. And everybody clapped for that. Oh, Mickey the victim. Mickey the victim. She's been a victim ever since I've known her. How refreshing. Mickey the pathetic. Mickey the victim, who Dawn stuck with. God, that man should have divorced her. What's he get in return? What's he get in return for never needing to go to the hospital, never needing any medication, sticking by her while she has to go to mental institutions, while she constantly has to have operations? This is what he gets in return. You know, he had long-term health care insurance set up that included in-home care for less money than it costs to put him in those stupid facilities where people can throw their parents away and pat themselves on the back because there's a marble fountain out front. I just can't get over the fact that ever since I've known my mom, she complained about chores. And she had the opportunity to have someone who would clean the house and help with Dad and have it all covered with the insurance that he set up. And she canceled it. She canceled it. And she didn't even have a good reason. She just wanted him gone. I mean, she was barely even home anyways. She's always going off to work where she just sat in a chair at a reception desk in a building that no one ever walked into. She had to go and do that. That was more important. And when she did get Dawn locked up, finally and permanently, then she retired. Now she's ready to spend time at home. Does that not tell you by itself that she was looking to get rid of him? She was out of the house before the sun came up, hours before the office even opened, talking about how she had to go and get the office ready, which consisted of making a pot of coffee. She had no interest in helping that man. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. The problems didn't start until she'd come home from work. Here comes the cloud of despair that is Mickey Thomas, the cloud of despair that I grew up with. Coming into the house and effing everything up. Yeah, I have a painful amount of regret. There's a lot of things I would have liked to have done differently. It was my first time dealing with dementia. I wasn't nearly as compassionate as I should have been. I wasn't too shabby either, though. I mean, I think my dad and I got closer in a lot of ways during that last bit of time. And I saw his fragile side, only to see people take advantage of his fragility. You know, instead of protecting him when he needed to be protected, they took advantage of it. When he couldn't defend himself with his words, when legally They got the paperwork signed by doctors as quickly as possible to take his own fate out of his own hands. I mean, the fact that they were still lying to him to the very end. A man with short term memory, a man who's easy to fool because he's not going to remember. He still stooped low enough to lie about where he was going and then left him. And it wasn't just the last time. You know, I witnessed it firsthand the first time that they locked him up and they lied to him about why he was there. And I went to visit him. They did this, by the way, while I was out of town. I left briefly to go film some sharks. I think I was gone for like a week and a half to 2 weeks. And in that little window of time, she locked him up. And he still had his facilities fairly well at that time. And while he was keeping his composure, you know, I never saw him act too wild at the facility. He did not know where he was there. He had, you know, considering that he had short-term memory, it's interesting. Short-term memory loss. It's interesting that he held on to the lie that he was told that he was there because Mickey was in a hospital. Because all he would do is ask how Mickey was doing. How heartbreaking is that? The woman who betrayed him, the woman who stuck him in there, and the woman who was not in hospital, who was just continuing to do her thing, but with him locked up. He's asking about her. He's asking how she's doing. He's asking why he can't go and see her. Can you imagine what that was like for me? Like, what lie do I tell him in order to continue this lie? As if I wanted to, you know, as if I wanted to. But I couldn't tell him the truth either. Poor man. I was going to sit there and tell him the truth about what had been done to him. Jesus. That would have been even more cruel. But I'll never forget how difficult it was to leave. Because he wasn't letting me out of his sight. He didn't want to be there. He's like, you're not leaving without me. I'd have to pretend I was going to the bathroom and then sneak out. And one time he caught me trying to leave. I mean, he had his wits about him still. That poor man. He was locked up against his will. And in better condition than most of you motherfuckers who still get to be at home. You fucking self-righteous, fake Christian, evil, compassionless pieces of shit. Making decisions of convenience and finances over doing what's best for a loved one. Maybe at some point it would have gotten difficult enough at home that you could sort of justify this, but that's sure as hell not when you locked him up. That is not when Don got locked up. I mean, as I already said, they tried multiple times to do it to him. And I saw firsthand how bad it was for him. It took a couple of months for him to recover from the trauma of going to that first facility. It took a couple of months to get him back on track at home. So don't tell me that those facilities didn't escalate his decline. I saw it escalate his decline, and I saw that he was capable of recovering if anyone bothered giving a shit. I'm not saying he could have ever escaped the doom of the dementia. I'm saying you people pretending that nothing wrong was done to Don got rid of him as quickly and callously as you could. You can sit here and talk about top rated facilities and this was the best thing according to so and so, and the brochure said this and that. Shut up. Shut the fuck up with your lies that you tell yourself. I saw these facilities firsthand. They're absolute, complete, and total fucking jokes. They're complete jokes. But even if they weren't, even if they actually had good care inside of them, that's not what was best for him. And you guys don't care. None of you fucking came and looked for yourselves. None of you came and inspected these facilities. None of you came and even visited Don in those years that I was there. In the years of his decline. You're just happy to listen to whatever story you hear that makes what was done to him justified, because that justifies you. That justifies your complicity. That justifies your part in this. This justifies that you aren't a bad person for going along with it. Whether that means saying nothing, whether that means giving your blessing, you were complicit. So back to Darold. I actually have the conversation on camera of Darold calling to, I guess, in his way, say goodbye, but he didn't say goodbye to Don, because Don didn't know what was happening to him. But it was the day before they locked him up, and I was filming all of it. Me and my dad on the couch doing laundry together. Dad on the couch looking at his photo albums. Me and Dad out back throwing the football. Yeah, lock that man up. Clearly there's no other option here. Don't fucking call me with an attempt to make yourselves feel better about what was done when you don't know what the hell happened and you have the nerve to fucking say, well, that's not the story I heard. How about if you don't rely on stories that you heard and actually know what happened?